Odakati okoto iki. Akatakati toko-toko. Akataki toko taka tiki. Itaka ukoto tiki. We are the Pleiadian High Council of 7, and we are pleased to offer you our words of wisdom. Hello, Glenn.
Hello, thank you for coming through.
Yes, it is our pleasure.
I have to say that I felt a lot of extra energy
Yes.
the moment that you started coming through. A lot of extra energy.
Yes.
I mean, I've had other channelings, and I've maybe sat in on other channelings, and I was curious. It was something that I don't know if this would be applicable to our conversation, but I would imagine that there has to be some sense or idea in this. Where Bashar, the channel, the entity known as Bashar, he had made a statement, and I'm not sure what the timeline would be in this idea called time. It could have been some time ago, but he was giving about 1% of his energy through his channeling in that idea. Is there any kind of representation of that in what you're doing now for our conversation?
Well, if you are asking how much can he handle of us, we would say it's much less than 1%.
So what would it be, what as a percent, what is coming through in our conversation for one-on-one?
Well, first of all, let us be clear about what we are saying.
Okay.
You are not getting a percentage of our meaning. You are not getting a percentage of our vibration. But Daniel's body can only handle about 0.04% of what we are energetically. His body will adjust more and more as he familiarizes himself with us and as he shifts to a crystalline structure. So that is the approximate percentage of what he can handle in his physical body.
At this point in time,
Yeah.
I think that we were taking more silica into our bodies to be a higher receiver for higher energy. Yeah. I guess that probably does take a little while. It's progressive, radiated type of idea
Yes.
as far as the physical body. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
There was, in one of your channelings, you had a very lovely example, which I've heard other occasions, that the best spiritual teachers are our children.
Yes.
For a number of reasons, one of which, and I think the one that I identified with the most, is the idea that everything's a game and that they're always playing and that
Yes.
nothing is taken all that seriously.
Yes. Yes.
In this idea, that's probably, I recognize that idea. I actually recognize more and more on a conscious level that I'm an immortal spirit in a timeless reality that has chosen to manifest into physical form and play a great game with a whole bunch of my friends.
Yes.
And that I'm coming to a conscious awareness of my immortality and the idea of being spirit. For instance, there was a time where there might have been something that had bothered me, and it would be among other family members. Maybe they're bickering or not communicating well because they're older. And in that moment, I actually said to myself subconsciously, that, where else could an immortal spirit go to play a game like this with each other? And I kind of stepped back for a second. I'm like, I'm consciously now aware almost most of the time. There'll be times that I do forget or I might get frustrated.
Right.
But I remember more and more and more as a conscious awareness. And I think that is very interesting and very fascinating aspect of the game, to want to have a lifetime where you thought you could die, and that might, there was all these subjective ideas. Yeah.
Yes, several thousand lifetimes. Yes.
Several thousand, yeah. Well, that was a curiosity as well, like how many simultaneous Earth incarnations that I had.
Simultaneous, so you mean in the sense of past lives, but you have an understanding that they are simultaneous.
Correct. In the sense of spirit.
Yes.
That there is an aspect of me receiving all of those concurrently.
Yes, indeed.
And I would just, as that aspect of other simultaneous lifetimes, in the linear sense, I was curious what my oversoul chose as an expression.
This is your 724th physical lifetime on planet Earth.
And that would be within this linear time frame, or just all concurrent lifetimes in an Earth expression?
We think that both of those things are the same.
Okay.
Yes.
And this idea of having like a lighter time of things and taking things less seriously, I've had given myself some physical challenges in this lifetime.
Yes.
And a lot of near-death experiences, a lot of times where it's not comfortable or very easy to be in the physical body.
Yes.
And I found that makes it, I don't know if I would call it more challenging, but it makes it so that it's a little bit, you have to be a lot more focused on the fun and the light side of things rather than what might be going on right now. I just didn't know if you had any advice as to a way to look at that, or a better anchor to be in the physical, ways to lighten that up a little bit.
Yeah, so you look at what your physical challenges cause you to do instead of what you would be doing if you didn't have the physical challenges. So you look at your life in the container that it's in, and you say to yourself, well, how is it of service to me to be in this particular container? How do I maximize this particular set of circumstances for my potential and my enjoyment. And so if you look at physical limitations and you say, all right, so if I had all of my faculties, if I had all the energy in the world, and thoughts of my physical well-being were never in my consciousness because I just took them for granted, I would probably be doing X, Y, and Z in the physical. And because I am hampered a bit and unable to pursue those things in the way that I would otherwise, I am being redirected back within myself. I need to spend more of my time alone. I need to spend more of my time relaxing, meditating, going within, focusing, finding ways to experience myself that do not involve taking physical action. And when you have that approach to your life, you can see how it would actually benefit you to be doing less, because if you were doing more, then some of what you would be doing, let us say for an adrenaline rush, or some of what you would be doing physically would actually be a distraction from what you could be doing metaphysically.
Yeah, I get the sense a lot of times that it is, or that I might even be acting as an anchor, as an assistance for a 5D type of reality, because I am, yes, many times the physical limitations. Basically, I wouldn't be in the spiritual place that I am now in the acknowledgement of the vast amount of information that I actually assimilated over time, having the ability to do that for a 5D type of reality idea.
Yes. Yes, very good.
And I have recognized that, but it doesn't mean that I still from time to time don't get maybe a little frustrated, or
yes,
it doesn't seem like. So I guess the bottom line is that you have to explore how it's serving you, since it is something that I did to myself. This is my reality. I am responsible for it, even if it's not on a conscious level at this moment in time.
Yes.
It's starting to be more conscious, but the template that I made and the experience I wanted to have. So that's an aspect of the challenge, is to try to ferret out why it's serving you.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
So this. I was curious more about you, or the collective, and the idea of, there was a channeling by Tryon, and it was one of the first times that I had experienced the magnitude of unconditional love that has started to be coming through the last couple of years.
Yes.
This idea. And it actually mentions Lemuria and the Seven Sisters.
Yes.
And the Seven Sisters have been culturally throughout history, without any acknowledgement from continent to continent or communication, in some way imprinted across all cultures, unilaterally across the earth. And there was a channeling that you brought through that said that your fingerprints were everywhere.
Yes, indeed.
Is the Seven Sisters, is that another translation for, or is it another idea or expression?
It is the way that many humans refer to the Pleiadian star system. The Seven Sisters, because of the 7 visible stars in your sky.
So I guess my question is, does the council translate in any way to, like, any of those stories? I mean, is the council...
Oh, yes, we are now not operating physical bodies, But we once did, and we once had spaceships, and we once came to planet Earth, and we once played around with the humans on planet Earth and procreated in every imaginable way with the humans on planet Earth, especially in Lemuria. So yes, that is what we meant. That is why we are so prominent and so prevalent in the historical data that you have uncovered so far from various cultures around the world.
Much more to be disclosed very soon.
Yes.
There's an image in the Great Pyramid of Giza that is I don't know, 40 or 60 feet up from the Queen's chamber, and it is a star map. And it has various stars on it throughout the galaxy, but it definitely represents the Pleiades and Orion and other star systems. And it's a fractal image. I was told by the founders it is a 5-dimensional image, and it's there as a placeholder.
Yes.
It seems to very much be an anchor. I even feel sometimes if I spend some time with this image, like the sense of other entities, not necessarily physically, but definitely energetically.
Very good. Very perceptive.
Now, is this some of the information that will, because there are stars, at least one that's represented on this map that doesn't exist within our vibrational reality, which could represent any number of civilizations like the Yael. I would imagine, and as I look at the image, there's other stars that show up, other consciousnesses that show up, and and sometimes leave. Like they show up for a little longer. Oh, look, the human's looking at the image, or peering into this fractal that represents other types of consciousnesses. And it seems like it's a playground for other entities to come and go as they please.
Yes. Awakening. Yes. That is what is occurring.
And this is basically my energetic representation of my awakening, like looking at the holotrope experience that the Shah has brought through. Yeah.
Like staring into your own DNA. At the patterns and the coding.
And this is unlocking different codons and DNA as time.
Yes.
What other information? Because there's still, if I remember correctly, 40 or 50 feet between where this image is found and the outer wall of the Great Pyramid in that part of the chamber. I know information historically has been written within human history, but there's been mentioned by more than one entity that soon there might be a larger set of disclosure of information in the Great Pyramid and under the Sphinx, maybe some historical data. Is that energy of that type of disclosure, is that still on track for this year?
Yes. It will be nothing new to those like you who have been studying up on this type of information, but because it will be hard evidence for the rest of humanity, it will create a stir. You see, yes.
Yeah, and I'll go back to my other question of being frustrated and being in the box and having physical challenges. I will also state that being in that box, I have made the best go of it possible for the limitations that I did impose on myself. And I've put a lot of this type of information out there for those energetically seeking it, knowing that there would be a time that there would be a larger subset of disclosure, that information might be very useful for people that are looking for a certain type of permission slip to have more information on that particular type of topic. So.
Yes, very good.
I have hundreds of videos to that end, many of which disclose this particular image and other information that goes around it, just to see if a energetic curiosity pattern might lead them to other information. So like a permission, not forced down their throat, but, well, here you go. Here's
planting
a breadcrumb.
Yes, yes, indeed.
A breadcrumb to other energies. If you're open-minded to that, I'm not going to force it upon you. So.
Yes, you are certainly part of the ground crew. Yes.
Now, I have some of the sense of unconditional love coming through at this point in time, and it's very sometimes feels not necessarily overwhelming, but it kind of interrupts my thought processes a little bit as we're having this conversation.
Yes, very good. Very good.
So, now this is represented a couple different ways as to the DNA in humanity, that there's 7 entities represented by 12 civilizations, if I'm interpreting that correctly. Depending on the hybrids. Now, what of your civilizations are represented in that DNA?
But we have been avian in appearance physically, and part of that is contributed to your DNA, so you are part avian. Is any of your DNA in any way contributed to any of the hybrid races, like the Hessasani or the Yagyal or the Pleiadian? No, we have not. Only in the sense that our DNA is in humans, and human DNA is in those hybrid civilizations.
So there would be some energetics that would be shared.
Yes. We're all connected physically and non-physically.
My understanding is that between, like, the origin races that the founders experimented with and brought forth with great love for, I think in the belt of Orion, a planet that would be regarded as Eden, or has other names. And those civilizations, as a lot of parallel and strife happened, foresaw a lot of that, things that were going to go down, so to speak, and move to other areas like the Pleiades and other related areas. Are your civilization representative of any of those races that left during that time from the first ideas of humanity, at least like a bipedal type of species?
Yes, indeed. We did migrate over, as you say, and our Pleiadian ancestry at that time was humanoid.
What density state do you actually exist in now?
We are in a very high 4th density.
Like close to a transition to the...
Yes, very close, yes.
And I get that type of conversation, or I hear that a lot, in that it seems to be a parallel as not necessarily just humanity uplifting, but other civilizations are on the path of their density states. And I hear just to make room for us, so to speak, within that density state. I'd like to have a better understanding of exactly what that means. I know, since there's connected genetics and there's connected energetics as well, that all this is one excited thing as the one moving forward. But what exactly does it mean energetically to make room to give us more space to play? I mean, I'm sure there's an infinite amount of room within creation, so I don't quite understand that.
Well, that is, yes, one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is that the aspect of source energy that we are has done everything that it can do in a fourth density experience. So when the new kids on the block come in to have their new experience of fourth density, we move on to a fifth density experience in order to give the aspect of source that we are the opportunity to have new experiences. Because we've done it all, and just as humanity has done it all in the third, so it's simply time to move on for the essence of who we all are to continue to expand.
So it's divine timing for all the. It's one excited thing, and it's just.
It's always about seeking new experiences. Ultimately, there's no need for any of this to happen. You understand that, of course.
I do, but I understand also that the only way that all that is could experience anything would be to have a physical and other energetic and physical differentiations to have those types of experiences.
Yes, indeed.
And that's why physical experience is manifest the way it is. So I should imagine that humanity's experience has given enough great contrast, and so we actually did pass the threshold this time and didn't blow up a plan and manifest some kind of destruction.
Correct.
I guess going through 2 planets before this isn't too bad. Third time's the charm.
Yes.
So I guess in the same idea of having done it all, 700 and something lifetimes within an Earth experience, there has to be a great majority of those that would lived out into a 3D experience. I would imagine that I've lived out every type of expression that would be of interest to me as a spirit. So, the founders pretty much said the same thing as I had a conversation with them when they said it wasn't the driving force was that everything had been done within the universal construct. I had heard something that said they basically existed in a universe that had reached completion before they actually came and seeded Eden as an expression, and I was curious as that what that meant, and they basically conveyed everything that could have been done was done. You're immortal. Eventually, you run out of things to do within a certain idea, and you regroup and have other expressions as an idea of excitement. So something for polarity this time around, basically.
Yes, precisely.
So is there any suggestions specifically that you could give to me that might be easier for this transition in the way of foods or other types of things? I know this everybody is unique energetically, but I know lighter foods would in general be helpful, but I find there's certain things that I eat that my body likes more than other things. I didn't know if you could gleam into my energetics and have anything.
Yes, we would say grounding vegetables that come from the ground, like carrots and beets and yams and so on, radish.
Kale, stuff like that.
Well, kale is above the ground.
Okay.
We are talking about things that are roots and tubers that grow in the soil and have to be yanked out of the soil from their womb, so to speak. Okay. So they are a bit more grounding for you and still light energetically.
And nuts and things like that have to be taken from the ground does count as well?
Well, nuts do not grow underneath the soil. You see.
Okay. Yeah, one of the challenges is that I have like an aggregate of things that are not happy with my body. So I will find things that are from the ground. I like that idea, that it actually physically had to be taken from the earth that it grew underground.
Or grounding, because it carries the light from above within it, and also the earth energy is more embedded in that particular type of food because it had its gestation in the soil.
I find the idea of going out and maybe if I can get my feet into the ground, or at least go out in socks and bring in energy, light energy from the idea of Alcyone, one of the central stars in the Pleiades, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And that there's a lot of energy that comes through and translates through our sun, and it gets relayed to the earth as information.
Precisely, yes.
I find that very useful and very helpful as well.
Yes, indeed.
Now, is there any, I know a lot of civilizations have call signs. I know Vishar's and Adronis has one in particular, and other entities like Kyoki, have symbology to be able to connect to them. Is there any symbology or ideals that can be used to connect to the council?
If you want to imagine a blue sphere, energetic sphere, so not a solid type of ball, but more of like an energetic sphere that is a light blue, like a sky blue, with a dark background. That could be described as our calling card, our signature.
Now, is it the High Council of Seven? Is it different races that are represented in this, or is it just seven?
Well, all of us have evolved from various physical forms in the Pleiades, yes. So yes, the answer to that would be all races, yes. All forms, all expressions are here.
So it's kind of collective.
Exactly. Yes.
Is there a number that you can put in the way of different unique individuated entities, or is that idea no longer appropriate?
You could say that individuated we would be around 25,000.
Okay. And I've done this for other entities as well, and I find great synergy and energetics in it. You have my permission when you feel it appropriate to reach into my energy and send information and light and love.
Very good.
At your discretion.
Very good, and we will.
Anything for recalibration or an astral state, all those types of ideas.
Yes. You are very open to receiving.
I am. At least I like to think so. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. For the most part, I'm not afraid anymore. Sometimes these physical challenges bring up old ideas, but I am not afraid in the context of I don't believe that there is any type of physical death anymore. I'm not. And a lot of times I have conversations with people that disturb them a little bit, that aren't quite keen on those ideas, and I'm not even thinking of what I'm saying a lot of times because I don't really fetter it. Or they'll say, well, what if they died? I'm like, well, there is really no death, so it's just a transition. You're immortal, and and maybe in that context or something a little lighter than that. I try to introduce the idea to see if another dialogue can be struck, and I'm very surprised at how many people are still in fear of that type of idea.
Yes. Well,
now. That's
exactly.
the
It is
being,
all
well-being
part,
state.
yes, all part of the experience that they want to have.
And I've reached out over the last couple of days energetically just to send some love and acknowledgement. And how is that energetically represented to the collective? Is that to the councils? Is that felt? Others describe it as like someone softly like putting their hand on their leg, or some kind of gentle awareness from a lower density state reaching out as we're starting to flex our muscles. How is that represented to you?
We would call it a warmth.
Mm.
What we experience, yes.
Like a recognition.
Yes. Like a lighting up.
Like a light bulb starting to come on?
Yes, in that sense of warmth being emitted, yes.
And this accelerated energy in 2016, I'm with these physical challenges, and I'm maybe still pushing up against them energetically, and not having as much acceptance for them. There's times where I feel like I'm in the energy of in this idea of upliftment and following your excitement, and recognizing that is more integrative as a collective, in that if everyone's following their excitement, it is all one collective excited thing moving forward within synchronicity.
Yes.
And I felt in that eddy many times, but it seems that I fall out more often than not, I would say, and it is generally as bumping against and not being appreciative to perhaps the circumstances that are at hand, rather than the ones that, because I'm very creative and have lots of ideas, and sometimes not being able to vet those out get in the way. I need to have, is there anything that you could suggest to pull back and be more appreciative in those ideas and the circumstances that are, I would like to be more appreciative in the recognition of being an immortal being in physical reality, I think is what I'm trying to state. And I wondered if there's anything that I could do to try to reset myself when I find myself maybe having a tantrum, so to speak, as a child, like maybe being frustrated. Because that's what it feels like, to be perfectly honest. Is sometimes I feel very frustrated.
Yes.
But it has been 25 years that I've been constricted in the body, and that sometimes I don't feel well anchored. I might wake up and I don't, it feels like I could easily slip away sometimes.
Yes. Well, what is most important for you in those moments of recognition that you're having a tantrum is to accept yourself as the child having the tantrum, and to offer self-love in response to that part of you that is experiencing the frustration. So rather than just looking to fix yourself in the moment, to be more appreciative, to take on the broader knowing of who you really are, and in a sense run away from what it is that you are experiencing, just be okay with the experience you are having. And when you can witness it, when you can step outside of the experience for a moment and say, oh, I'm having a meltdown, I'm having a little bit of a breakdown here. What is it that this part of me really needs? It is love, and it is acceptance, and it is compassion. And that will be the way for you to move past that type of experience for yourself, is to give yourself the love, the compassion, the acceptance that you wished someone else would have given you at a certain time.
And I do recognize I think that the irony of that is that I do recognize that it is me giving myself that experience, and it's just perhaps the ego, having a little bit of a tantrum, being in
Yeah.
a position, and that energetically, by being frustrated, you are still giving energy to what is, and you're still manifesting those parallel reality streams and those timelines. So, and even though I recognize that, sometimes that makes me more frustrated. So,
Yes.
so I will be easier on myself as effectively what this comes
Yes.
down to.
Yes.
I get the sense that I have an expression from the oversoul level in the collective, in the council.
Yes. That is correct.
I would imagine that since in the non-linear sense as a seventh entity in this dimensional construct, I would imagine that there is room to have an expression in almost any other expression that you'd wish, provided that you're energetically a fit for my understanding. Like I know Earth starts interviewing people, little lighter energies, especially within this dimensionality from here on out, looking
Yes.
for lighter energies to come and manifest.
Yes.
That now, does having multiple expressions from the oversoul level within, let's say 700 and something lifetimes within Earth, does that make it easier to join or to have other expressions? And that's thinking of it from a linear perspective. But
Well, thinking of it from an experiential perspective, the oversoul wants to have many different fingers and many different pies. So
the craving is basically is experience.
yes. So of course, the more physical that expressions that the oversoul has anchored, the more non-physical experiences the oversoul is going to want to have, the more multidimensional experiences, the more experiences as collective.
So it's like a kid going to the candy store. You want to have as many different flavors as possible.
Variety provides balance as well, provides the opportunity for more feedback to be brought to the mothership, so to speak.
Now, how is that differentiated, since it is a simultaneous experience from the oversoul level? I don't know if this could be translated into a linear experience, but I would imagine that as these multiple simultaneous experiences are happening and being experienced concurrently, that the oversoul is making other decisions to have other expressions. Now, these expressions, for instance, like my unique individuated expression, I understand that I'm a unique individuated soul and I have a unique consciousness and mind of my own, so to speak, and there's agreements between myself and the oversoul at that point in time.
Yeah.
And that's the same for most other expressions, that they are unique and individuated so that the oversoul can have
Yes.
more differentiated type of experience where they're not the puppet on the strings anymore. They've decided to have that type of experience mutually with that unique differentiated soul.
Yes, precisely.
Is that a proper understanding?
Yes.
It's a lot to take in and hold within the consciousness to have that non-linearity type of perspective.
Yes.
But it's interesting. There's a lot of things. Something that I was talking to one of the directors or writers of a television show called Doctor Who, and they play with the idea of space and time, and they have so for 50 years. And I remember quite some number of years ago telling him that it was preparing collective consciousness for other ideas, as we become more intelligent and we learn to manipulate the ideas of space and time, not knowing that, space and time was the construct at the time. And he pretty much thought I was crazy at the time, but it is softening human consciousness to the ideas of other dimensionality and nonlinearity for like oversoul and all the way up to the one.
Yes, indeed. That is one of the benefits of the science fiction genre.
Yes.
Is opening those doorways.
Playing with those ideas.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the ideas that I've had that would that is exciting to me is actually doing a science fiction that would be a comedy and integrating ideas of how space and time is actually constructed in a way that could be seeded into human consciousness, where you could actually play with the idea of infinite parallel dimensionality, where if you go back to a moment in time, that it would be you and any other entities that were there at the time. It would be another point in a different time stream rather than that other one, which would be fixed because you had already experienced it. So
yes, that is a wonderful idea.
And to construct something around that, and like the spaceships and the controls are only isomorphic to the individual unique consciousness that actually created them, because they're an expression of their higher consciousness. That type of idea.
Yeah.
You soften that idea into human consciousness by putting it into like a very levity type of idea, a very comic type of idea, but still represents the science. So that was one of the ideas that I had. Anyway.
Wonderful. It's a wonderful idea.
I think it would be, if it could be done correctly, not only would it be fun, but it would also convey a lot of things that will one day soon become science facts and could make it easier to be accepted, I should say.
Yes, precisely.
Like the prime directive in Star Trek, that the hands are off until a certain type. And I get the sense that in your initial channeling that you had said that you had stepped back until this dimensional gateway very recently. Now, what has changed in the energy now? Is it that collective consciousness has reached another demarcation point, or just time to come through? Or
for our particular collective, our particular council, of course, we have been working behind the scenes, hands off behind the scenes, energetically, supporting, sending love transmissions, sending energy, all of that. And we do occasionally come through without making our announcement of who we are. So anytime you are hearing from a particular channeled being, you are hearing from the name of the being. You are hearing from that particular being who has named him, her, themself. But there is also help coming from many different directions in that channeling. So there would be too many of us to mention by name. And so when you think of information that has come from other channels who are talking about Pleiadians or Arcturians or Archangel Michael, we are lending a hand in the delivery of that information as well. It's never just a singular expression of any entity that's coming through any channel. So we are taking the lead, so to speak, at this time through this particular channel, because he is ready and because his audience is ready for us.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's an idea that Bashar had brought through that I experimented with very early on when I wasn't necessarily on board with the idea that I was an immortal being and that Bashar was actually channeling or any of these types of ideas. And it is the idea of building a conduit to first contact and playing around in your imagination, particularly with the eyes of the entity that you would have first contact with. It is those exercises that brought through this image that is in the Great Pyramid of Giza that I had mentioned.
Yes.
The eyes on this entity in this representation are exact to the one that I was imagining.
Yeah.
If you want to call it imagining, because, my
tapping
imagination
into.
was powerful enough to, it was there. I've had like glimpses of an area that might actually have or will occur or has the potential, probably better stated, the potential to occur in? It look very tropical, maybe a Hawaiian type of idea in one of the islands like Hawaii. I was wondering is that still the best exercise to do to build that type of energetic conduit to that parallel, is to the imagination of what first the entity might look at, or the eyes, or is there...
It is completely up to you. Whatever you feel most excited and interested in is what is going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. So when you take on any type of spiritual practice, you will feel an effectiveness of it for you, given your experience of it, and you may feel that the experience that you are having of it diminishes over time, that it stops at a certain point being interesting or fun for you to engage in that endeavor. And then you are more likely in that moment to call in something else, some other practice that you can do that will be more to your liking, that will give you more of an energetic burst. And so we would say you can gauge that moment by moment. You have it in your toolkit now, so you can always access that particular process if you would like, but it's not something that we would say you need to do every day like brushing your teeth.
So it's more, and back to the singular idea of excitement, and the energy of that will draw you to whatever needs within synchronicity to represent itself. And if it is the idea of imagining this or that, or speaking to this person, obviously it happens, because that's more the idea of the one thing moving forward in excitement, rather than differentiating yourself off from all that is for that unique 3D type of experience. So
yes, there are no rules.
It's excitement. It's energy. It's following. There was a lovely exercise that was done by the creators where you had the top 10 things. If you took the training wheels off and there were no constrictions on you as a fifth dimensional, and like no condition of energy or monetary energy, or these types of ideas, and then to filter through them and go, oh, maybe number 10 is more exciting than number 2 is, and move that up on the scale, to learn to feel for the energetics of it rather than the idea and methodology, since we're so used to making our lists and these types of ideas. And the ego is trying to still keep you safe, so some ego adjustment and negotiation in there as well, because it still feels destructible and it needs to go along for the ride. I think that's the thing that has been the most useful, at least for me.
Very good. Very good use of that.
Ego. Everybody's got to go along. You don't want to bring the ego kicking and screaming and kick you down the stairs, and you have to start all over again. Trust me on this one.
Yes. Yes.
After that many times. But that is the experience. Well, I know Daniel was coming up on some things that he needed to do. Do we still have any time, or is that about right?
Yes, if you have one or two more questions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Daniel. I always have questions. I am an inquisitive thing. The one gift that I did give myself within this lifetime as an experience is I have a near photographic memory. As I've listened to all these channelings, I've correlated a massive amount of information, and a lot of the things that brought me on board were all these people that don't know each other all across the world, and some of them were saying the same types of things, like the central star Alcyon was mentioned by several different entities, by several different channels. I was like, ooh, now you have my attention, along with a lot of other things. So are we getting close to energetically, or maybe I'm just not aware of, I know of 3 of the hybrid races, like the Essassani, the Yael, and the Pleiadian. Is there a disclosure of the 4th race? Is that energetically yet appropriate, or does that have not yet come through?
It is not appropriate to give you a name. However, you may wish to start to tune into them energetically.
I have. For some reason, I felt I felt connection with all of them, but for some reason that kind of raised its hand.
Yes.
Does that help with the disclosure in all eventualities, the building a better energy conduit to them? Or is it just synergistic?
Repeat the question.
By me building an energy conduit to the civilization, does it actually bring closer and bring forth the ability to have eventual disclosure of that?
Yes.
The name of that civilization. Okay.
Yes,
so
of
there
course.
is a correlation there.
Yes,
So
because
like
it is something that you really want to experience. You are drawing the experience to you through the actions that you are taking.
And how is humanity perceived by, well, I know we're perceived different ways throughout creation. Some people think we're an abomination. Others think of, how the heck did you actually accomplish doing what you've done and not blow up the planet? And yet others knew that we could do it the entire time. Thanks, yay.
Yes.
How are we energetically represented at this point in time because of what Bashar might have actually stated as the rubber band effect, being in great darkness for so long?
Yes.
This dimensional construct and the energy and light energy photons that were the photon belt we're going through, and all these ideas of entities giving energy and
Yes.
love, and so much focal attention throughout creation as one of the most focal, like highly focused place
Focused
in space
upon.
and time
Yes.
construction. Yeah.
Yes.
How are we? Is it like light bulbs being turned on? Is that kind of like how? I mean, I know sometimes I feel like when these onsets of unconditional love start coming through, that I feel an energy come through that's just indescribable. You can't put it into words. Aside from unconditional love might be the only label that would be a generalization on it. Now, that has to be perceived some way, because if I'm feeling it in the way that I'm feeling it in my body, it has to be some kind of representation to other entities. Does that get a lot of attention? Or?
Well, we would say that you are observed as holding more light. Being able to hold more light, to be grounding of more high-frequency energy. And yes, it does cause you to light up energetically. So yes, that's an apt correlation.
I think I use that correlation because I think, again, it was Bashar that had mentioned that if we went back 300 years, for instance, that we would appear to glow to
that version of you. Yes.
Light. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So that's the same kind of ideas that we're holding, bringing forth more of our true and natural selves and remembering.
Yes.
Sometimes it feels like I might pop out of my physical body. It's very disconcerting sometimes as it comes through, but it's getting the hang of it, I guess, so to speak, as staying grounded in the body and having this light simultaneously. I guess that's the challenge. I heard another channeling that stated that we understood that it would be challenging, that you could, before you manifest in this physical form, you can see different timelines and potentials. But we got a lot more than we bargained for. We didn't realize that it would be quite as challenging as it might have been.
Correct. Yes.
So to stay grounded and just be a little easier, as much easier. For me, it's the recognition of others as immortal beings that might be otherwise have gotten on my nerves, so to speak, and that we're playing a game with each other. So it's finding ways to be lighter about the entire process. So.
Indeed. And you are doing a wonderful job of that, we must say.
Have you had observations of that?
Yes.
Now, I hear, if we do have time for one more question.
It is actually, now is the time that he needs to step out of this.
Yeah, no worries.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll wait for another time.
Very good.
Or you can send it energetically if you have a moment.
Yes. We have
Well,
enjoyed interacting with you, and we will continue to, as you have already suggested. We are the Pleiadian High Council of 7, and we are very fond of you.